Welcome to Top Advisor Marketing, where you will learn how to become a prolific online influencer, attract more ideal clients, and grow your practice. Brought to you by Top Advisor Podcasting, a done-for-you podcasting solution built just for trusted advisors. And now, your co-hosts of Top Advisor Marketing, Kirk Lowe and Matt Halloran.
Hello and welcome to another Top Advisor Marketing podcast. We have another repeat guest. So for those of you who didn't listen to the original podcast with Eric Gaddy, please go back and listen to it, because today we're going to dive in even deeper on who Eric is, what he does, and what he can do for you as a financial services professional. He is the author of Retired Early, What Are You Waiting For? And as Eric and I were just kind of chatting to prepare for the podcast, I was joking with him because he sent me a copy of the book, and it was sitting on my dining room table, as all things end up on my dining room table. And my wife picked up the book and she's like, "Hey, what's this? Is this for work?" And I said, "Well, it's kind of for work and it's kind of for us to read." And she read the title and she flipped it over and she read the back and she's like, "Well, you start reading this? Okay, let's retire early." So, Eric, that's how I wanted to start the podcast, because you have now caused trauma in my life, which I greatly appreciate.
Well, as I jokingly said, can I have her number? I'll give her a call and just keep pushing her to get you to read the book.
Yeah. And in fact, it is on the top of my books to read while I'm taking a little bit of time off. And Eric, I think that example is a perfect example why what you have done is so powerful, because I believe that people don't wear their how many hours they work on their sleeve as a badge of honor anymore. I think people really do want to try to live life more outside of work, and that's really what the book is about. So let's talk about the book very quickly to give everybody a little bit more of a preview of what that is. And then I want to switch gears, if you don't mind, because you've got, I should say, a whole bunch of great offerings that financial services professionals can use to market this philosophy to their existing clients and also use it as a prospecting tool. Is that fair?
That's fair.
All right.
Absolutely.
Tell us about the book, man. Where did this come from? And give us a little preview, please.
Well, the book came from just kind of my upbringing, not to rehash what we talked about in the first podcast, but I grew up in a mortuary. That sort of set the tone for me. And just the life is short had been burnt into my brain early on. And so fast forward until I'm in my late 40s and I lose a couple of people very close to me. And that kind of opened my eyes. It kind of got me out of autopilot. For years, I've just been doing the same thing every day, every week, every month, every year. And it woke me up. And so that kind of got me on the track to write this book. And the funny thing is that I told a few people around me that I was going to write this book, and they were like, "Oh, sure. Okay. Right. We'll believe it when we see it." So I jumped in, wrote the book. And really, the book falls into kind of two parts. The first part is how to retire early, and it's more the financial piece. And what I came up with is what I call Dial into Early Retirement. And DIAL is an acronym for debt, income, assets, and lifestyle. And these are the four things I believe that you need to have in order to retire at any age. Society pushes us to think 65 is the age that we need to get to retire. But really, if you have your financial world in order, you can retire at any point. So that was the first part of the book. The second part of the book is, what are people doing when they retire early? I mean, I don't know anyone that's 45, 50, 55 years of age that has retired early and just retired to the recliner. I mean, we know what happens when you do that. It doesn't end up very good. So most people are staying active. And in the book, we talk about expats moving to foreign countries and having a much lower cost of living. We talk about mobile lifestyles, people jumping on their boat or in their RV and taking off. And we talk about simplified living. Just, your kids are out of the house. Why do you need that 3,000 square foot house anymore? Why not downsize? And we look at tiny houses. We look at off-grid living in different ways. People are managing to save a lot of money just by simplifying where they are.
And with that, you have built an entire program to help advisors have the dial conversation and to have these conversations, including ways to look at marketing in a little bit different of a way. Would you mind lifting the hood a little bit and showing us the engine?
Absolutely. I mean, the one thing that I knew is I couldn't write a book and retire. I mean, people just, unless you're J.K. Rowling's, I mean, you're not going to make a lot of money by writing a book. So what I came up was with 11 different ways that I could monetize this. And so, obviously it's the book itself. And then I developed a workbook, which is sort of a companion to the book where people can put in their numbers and do some projections on their retirement, what kind of lifestyle they're going to be living. I just completed an online course, which was very interesting for me because I've never done one of these before. What I found was it was very easy to do the online course. It was just a bit time consuming. It took some time to put 4 hours of content in a recording. And so I've recorded a few podcasts already. We're going to be rolling out the podcast hopefully in January. I wanted to kind of get a few things into the hopper before I started, because as we talked about last time, you want to be consistent with your podcast. And I wanted to make sure I was in a time frame that I could be consistent. I've rolled out some coaching packages. And these coaching packages are to help folks, seize their own freedom, to get clarity in their own retirement plan and try to get their life in order. And this whole thing is about taking control of your life. I've jokingly said that the book could have been called Freedom, What Are You Waiting For? But I felt like retiring early was the kind of the pathway or the doorway you had to pass through in order to get your freedom. And so, we have some coaching packages that we're able to help people with that. One of the things that we're looking at as far as financial advisors, and we're looking also with CPAs and life agents, is the certification program. And what we want to do is take the dial system that I created and be able to market it out to other advisors, because it's a very simplified process. When I was an advisor, if you would have come up to me and asked me, let's say you're 55 years of age, you're an airline pilot, and you came up to me and you said, "Hey, Eric, how can I retire by the time I'm 60? That would have probably been an answer that would have taken me about 20 minutes to come up with. I mean, I would have to ask you some questions. You would have to ask me some questions. And we would get to the point where we could figure that answer out. So it wasn't just a very quick answer. Now, if you were to ask me, how can I retire by 60? I would be able to say, well, if you get your dial in order, that's your debt, your income, your assets, and your lifestyle, you can retire at any age. So it's made the answer a whole lot easier. And so what we want to do is focus on advisors to be able to use this information. And it's a very simplified approach to help others, help their client base and help others retire early and take control of their life. So I think that's something that one of the things that's kind of slowing me down with the marketing of that is I think it works, the whole dial process works better as a software program. So I'm trying to figure out how to get it in a software or integrate it into a website. Mm-hmm. So, technology, I'll turn 50 before too long, and technology passed me by years ago. So trying to figure this out hasn't been the easiest thing. But once we do have it figured out, we want to get it out there to advisors such that they can use with their client base, and as well as teach advisors, how to do a workshop or seminars based on retiring early. And I know from the standpoint of my social media, there are a lot of people out there interested in retiring 55, 57, 50, or just seizing their freedom and being able to take control of their life and do what they want, when they want, how they want, and from where they want. So there's a lot of interest out there. So I think it's something that advisors could kind of separate themselves instead of just doing Social Security seminars and retirement income seminars. I think this is something totally different that a lot of people would have a lot of interest in.
And Eric, that's why I wanted to have you back on the show, because I love, and we at Top Advisor Marketing are always looking for good ideas to bring to financial services professionals that are truly unique and different. Now, when it comes to the online course, the coaching packages, and some of the other things that you have, are those white labelable? So, for instance, if a person does get their license for the Dial program, would they be able to access that online course or something like that and put their logos and stuff in there?
Yes. With the online course, I recorded it to be more independent, not just focused with me working it, but somebody else could use it as well.
Great. Man, that was wicked smart. And trying to get it in a software program is, boy, you're way out of my league there too, brother. But here's the cool thing. We have some pretty tech savvy people who are listening to this podcast, and there might be somebody listening that says, I know exactly how to do that. And they will hopefully reach out to you and offer, some assistance there, because a lot of the selling systems or financial planning systems, as you know, are just so darn complex, right? I mean, you're diving in so deeply, and I know a lot of advisors absolutely love that, but the Dial program seems to me to be a great conversation that could be a huge time saver and add great value. Or am I way off there?
No, I think it's a very simple concept, and I think it can save people a lot of time versus, if you look at, let's say, using a financial planning software to reach the same result, I think the Dial process is much quicker and much value added, because when you talk to a client, clients will understand, okay, I got debt, I know income, I know assets, and I know lifestyle. This isn't something that we're talking about standard deviations and betas and alphas and we're losing people. This is something that's fairly straightforward and easy for anybody to wrap their head around this.
Mm-hmm. You have also had success with some speeches. Is that something you're going to offer from a educational workshop perspective in 2019?
Yeah, I think speeches, they sort of kind of swiveled a little bit. I thought, based on my lifestyle with the book and talking about RVs and people taking off on their boat, I thought I would focus more towards those dealers, coming in and doing a client appreciation day. Mm-hmm. But I think, as we're looking at speeches, I think that's going to swivel more towards webinars.
Gotcha.
And that could be webinars to the same group, but that could also be webinars to advisors and again, CPAs who want to use the Dial system. And we'll certainly use that from an ad standpoint to generate interest, but I think it adds value just to build goodwill and roll out the process.
Right. Now, you actually have somebody who's beta testing some of this right now, don't you? Outside of you, who do you have that's who's doing this?
Well, a lot of this is my social media guy. Okay. I did not technology. It's almost like I know the recipe to all this stuff, but to implement it, I need some help.
Sure.
So I have a social media guy who actually is sort of retired early himself. He moved out of DC, out of a corporate job. He lives nearby, and he kind of beta tested everything for me because prior to social media, he was in the insurance industry. So he knows the language and the speak of advisors. So he's able to kind of give me some guidance of, hey, I think I would tweak it here or there, and let's change the message. So that's been very helpful. I've also got some friends that I've reached out to and run them through the process. So I've gotten some good feedback.
And that's always super, super powerful. I know advisors are going to want to make sure that this is possible. And you're living proof, obviously, but having some other people outside of you doing this is always a great marketing tool. Now, when it comes to your major epiphany about this, let's get back to the book just a little bit. Was this a health issue? I mean, I'm getting personal here, Eric, and you can tell me to pound sand if you want, but I mean, what was your epiphany here to even begin this? I know we talked a little bit about that in the first podcast, but I think it bears revisiting.
Yeah, it was not a health issue, but God, I could stand to lose 30 or 40 pounds, but it wasn't a health issue. It was more of being younger, and I think I'd mentioned on the first podcast, growing up in a mortuary, I was moving bodies with my mom by the time I was 8 years old. I had seen teenagers and 20-year-olds and people that just didn't have a chance to live a long life. And then when I started lost my sister, I lost a business partner to cancer at young ages. It just shook me. It just, I kind of fell back to, I don't know how much longer I have to live. I mean, tomorrow is not guaranteed for any of us. Mm-hmm. So I think one of the things that kind of shook me out of my stupor also was soon after my business partner died, I went to a broker-dealer conference. And I'm looking around the room and I'm seeing all these 65, 70, 75-year-old advisors still sitting in their suit and tie and going to work every day. And I'm just looking at that and I'm like, God, I would be miserable. I do not want to do that. And so it was a combination of things that just kind of woke me up and wanted me to kind of take my life in a different way and really take control of my life. And I up to that point, I didn't think I had control. Still as an independent advisor, I had compliance that I felt like was kind of censoring me. There was some just unhappiness with the business at that point in time. And so it was just time for me to get out. And I think if you would ask my girlfriend, she would tell you that a year earlier was probably when I should have gotten out. I was just at a point where I was done.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a combination of things. It wasn't health related. It was more mental related. And it was just time to do something else.
Well, Eric, one of the things that when you're talking about the advisors and walking into a broker-dealer conference and seeing the sea of white hair, I know that there are people that this isn't going to resonate with because they're still old school, very old school. But if you want to talk to millennials, if you truly want to talk to the younger Generation X, this is what they're working towards. And that's why I wanted to have you back, because if you want to youngen up your book of business, right? If you want to make it so that you are servicing and serving a younger population where they're either going to be making deposits more regularly or that you are going to make a huge lifestyle difference. And guys, ladies, think about this. You help somebody retire early, they're going to tell everybody and their brother about this. This is an amazing referral opportunity because it is so fundamentally unique and different. Instead of waiting to retire, being able to do it early, you're just going to have a totally different relationship with your clients. Is that a fair statement?
I think that's a very fair statement.
Okay. What are we going to be on the lookout from you here in 2019? What are some of the things that are coming down the pipeline? When can advisors, or when do you see advisors being able to get into the Dial program? Help us with that.
Well, I think right now the Dial program is ready to go, but it's more of a manual, using the workbook, using a fillable PDF. What I would like to see, again, is to solve the software issue.
Okay.
If I could get that solved, then I would really roll it out, across the country. But for right now, if somebody approached me and said, hey, we want it now, if they're okay with the manual version, we could work with that. But my goal is to have it up and running and then have like a couple of webinars each month to educate people, to educate advisors on how to use it, to help advisors along the way. And even potentially, if they're in the Southeast, to be able to come out and do some workshops with them. Mm-hmm. And so, there's a lot of flexibility with that. But so hopefully in the next couple of months, we can solve that issue on the software. I want to get more active on YouTube. I think that's a great way to organically build a brand. And we've gotten some, I think I've got 10 or 12 videos out now. I'm typically more of an introvert, so I have to push myself to be an extrovert. So just to default to do a YouTube video isn't necessarily comfortable for me, but each time I do it, I get a little bit more comfortable. Mm-hmm. So certainly the podcast. One of the things that I am going to do is activate. I've put my licenses on the shelf, but my girlfriend is going to work with an advisor who is part-time in the United States and part-time in Italy. And she is going to go work with him while he's out of the country with his client base. So with that opportunity, I am going to activate my 65, because one of the things in my coaching packages people have asked for is specific advice. Mm-hmm. I need help with my portfolio. So I think I'll activate my 65 to be able to do that. I have no intentions of activating the other licenses, but that's going to be something a little bit different. And I'll structure that, people, because people will be like, well, you're going back to work full time. Well, no, I'm going to have office hours set for maybe 10 hours a week. And that's it. That's all I'll do as far as coaching packages is concerned. So there's a lot of flexibility to be able to control your time and control what you're doing. And I think a lot of people don't understand that when you take control of your life, you get out of the corporate world, you can structure your day however you want to structure your day. And put some stop gaps and some controls in there.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. Well, we'll make sure that all of the links that you have to all of these different things are in the show notes today. You know, when the podcast comes out, hopefully you will have some of the software issues taken care of. And if the software issues aren't taken care of, and if you are somebody who could really help with this, make sure that you reach out to Eric, because I agree, Eric, you know, having this be a software program would be super, super helpful, even though there are a lot of advisors out there just like you who the workbook and the editable PDF are more than enough, and at least more than enough to really get them started on the program.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some people are old school, and we can help with that, but preferably the software would be a better way to go.
Sure. All right, closing thoughts. Anything that you want to pass on to our listeners before we wrap up the podcast for today?
Well, I would just say, you know, I retired at 48, and I'm still able to do different projects. And I think if you're out there and you're trapped in your job, and, you know, I come from where you come from. I was an advisor. And I think the key is structuring your business the way you want to structure your business along with your life. And I'm seeing more and more advisors out there getting out of the office, getting out of the suit and tie, and they're able to travel the country, and they're able to mobilize their practice. So they've got a balance of continuing to make their money, continuing to service their clients, but getting a lot more of their freedom as well. So I love that movement among financial advisors. And hopefully, if you're feeling trapped, you can set up your practice such that you can get your freedom and continue to service those clients.
And with that, Eric, thank you very much. We will also make sure that we have a link to your book in the show notes. Even if you aren't planning on using this as a financial advisor to your clients, you should probably read the book. It was, you know, wonderfully eye-opening, and I will probably add some color to the podcast after I finish reading it over this break. So, Eric, again, thank you very much for being on the show.
Hey, thanks so much, Matt.
Eric Gaddy, the author of Retired Early, What Are You Waiting For? It is in the bookstores as of today. And if you want to know more about what's going on, make sure you click and look into the show notes, because there's going to be a whole bunch of links there. So for Eric and everybody at Top Advisor Marketing, if you haven't subscribed, click that subscribe now button below. And also, if you wouldn't mind, take 1 second and give us a review on your favorite listening device, whether that's iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, Spotify, blah, 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 blah. That would be fantastic, and we'd greatly appreciate it. So I hope you all have a magnificent 2019, and we'll see you on the other side of the mic very soon.
Are you ready to change the way you communicate with your clients? Are you tired of being the best kept secret in your area? Learn how to become a prolific online influencer, attract more ideal clients, and grow your business. Contact us today and see what the power of podcasting can do for your business. Click on the Contact Us link on our website at topadvisormarketing.com and set up a call to learn more. Follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook for more updates and information.
This was brought to you by Iris.xyz, a platform helping financial professionals become better in business and life through new media and new voices. Visit them and learn more at Iris.xyz.